My name is Lewis. I'm 54 years old, and I thought this Christmas was going to be perfect. I had planned this incredible vacation to a luxury Caribbean resort, $19,000 for the whole family. My daughter Sarah, her husband, his parents, and me. I imagined us on white sand beaches, sharing meals, reconnecting. I spent months planning every detail because I wanted to give my family something special. But 3 days before departure, I discovered something that shattered everything. Before I tell you what happened next, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely? Drop a comment below and hit that subscribe button, because this story is about to take a turn you won't believe. Let me take you back, so you understand how much this Christmas trip meant to me. See, I've been raising Sarah alone since she was 8 years old. Her mother, Margaret, died in a car accident on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. One moment I had a wife, a partner, someone who knew how to braid our daughter's hair and make her laugh. The next moment, I was a single father, trying to figure out how to be both mom and dad. Those early years were the hardest of my life. I worked as a civil engineer. Good money, but demanding hours. I turned down promotions that would have required relocating or traveling because I couldn't leave Sarah. Every morning I woke up at 5:30 to pack her lunch, make breakfast, and get her ready for school. I learned to French braid through YouTube videos at midnight. I sat through every single school concert, even the ones where she just played tambourine in the back row. When she was 13 and needed a dress for her first formal dance, I took her shopping and sat outside dressing rooms for 3 hours until she found the perfect one. I never remarried. People asked why I suggested I try dating again, but honestly, I didn't want to. Sarah was my focus, my purpose. Every decision I made was about giving her the stable, loving home she deserved after losing her mother so young. I taught her to drive in the old pickup truck I still have. I stayed up helping with college applications. I cried at her graduation probably more than she did. And when she met David 3 years ago, I was genuinely happy for her. She seemed in love, excited about her future. David seemed like a decent guy at first. He was 32, worked in finance, came from money. His parents, Gordon and Patricia, were wealthy, the kind of people who casually mentioned their summer home in the Hamptons and winter trips to Aspen. They were polite to me, but there was always this subtle condescension, like they were doing me a favor by acknowledging my existence. Gordon had this way of talking over me at dinners, and Patricia would smile tightly whenever I shared stories about my work. But I told myself it didn't matter. Sarah was happy, and that was enough. After Sarah and David got married 2 years ago, I started noticing changes. She called less frequently. Our weekly dinner tradition became monthly, then sporadic. When we did talk, she seemed distracted, always mentioning things she was doing with David's family. Gordon took them sailing. Patricia helped Sarah redecorate their condo. I was happy she had this extended family, but part of me felt like I was being slowly edited out of her life. That's why I came up with the Christmas vacation idea. It was October when I started planning. I wanted something big, something that would bring us all together and remind Sarah that I was still here, still her dad, still someone who loved her more than anything in this world. I spent weeks researching resorts, reading reviews, comparing packages. Finally, I settled on this place in Turks and Caicos. 5-star, right on the beach. They had these incredible beachfront villas with private pools, gourmet restaurants, a world-class spa. I booked 3 villas, one for me, one for Sarah and David, one for Gordon and Patricia. The package included everything. All meals, premium drinks, water sports, spa treatments, even a private dinner cruise on Christmas Eve. I added special touches too. I arranged for a photographer to capture family photos on the beach. I booked us all for a sunset catamaran trip. I even reserved a table at the resort's exclusive restaurant for Christmas dinner, the one that required booking months in advance. The total came to $19,000. It was nearly everything I'd saved over the past 3 years. Money I'd been setting aside for retirement, for emergencies, for whatever the future held. But I didn't hesitate. This was for my family. This was for my daughter. This was my chance to show Sarah that no matter how much her life had changed, I would always be there, always trying to create beautiful memories with her. When I called Sarah to tell her about the trip, her reaction was underwhelming. I'd expected excitement, gratitude, maybe even tears of joy. Instead, she said, "Oh, that sounds nice, Dad," in this flat voice like I'd just told her about the weather. I asked if she was okay, and she said she was just busy with work. I told myself she was probably stressed, that she'd be more excited once it got closer. David's response was similarly lukewarm. He thanked me over the phone, very polite, very formal. But there was something in his tone, like he was accepting an obligation rather than a gift. Gordon and Patricia, though they were enthusiastic. Patricia called me the same day, gushing about how generous I was, how they absolutely had to find a way to repay me. Gordon got on the line and said something about how this was exactly what the family needed. Their enthusiasm made me feel better. At least someone appreciated the gesture. I threw myself into the planning. I bought a new swimsuit, even though I rarely went swimming anymore. I picked up a book about the history of the Caribbean islands. I made a list of things I wanted to do with Sarah, just the two of us. Maybe we could go for an early morning walk on the beach, like we used to walk around our neighborhood when she was little. Maybe we'd have a chance to really talk the way we hadn't talked in months. As the departure date got closer, I found myself lying awake at night, imagining how it would all unfold. I pictured Sarah laughing at dinner, relaxed and happy. I imagined David warming up to me, maybe the two of us bonding over snorkeling or fishing. I even imagined getting along better with Gordon and Patricia, finding common ground, becoming a real blended family. These thoughts filled me with so much hope that I could barely contain it. But there were small things that nagged at me, little moments that didn't quite add up. When I'd call Sarah to coordinate details, she always sounded rushed, distracted. She'd say things like, "I'll check with David and his parents," and I noticed she never said, "I'll check with David and our parents," or "I'll check with the family." It was always David and his parents, like they were a separate unit, and I was just adjacent to it. 2 weeks before the trip, I called to tell Sarah about this amazing excursion. I'd found a private boat tour to a secluded cove where we could snorkel in crystal clear water. She barely responded. "Just sounds good." "Dad, listen, I have to go." I heard voices in the background laughter. I asked what she was doing, and she said they were having dinner with David's family. I said, "But aren't we all family now?" There was this pause, and then she said, "You know what I mean, Dad," in a tone that felt like a door closing. Then she hung up. I sat there, holding the phone, this uncomfortable feeling spreading through my chest. It was the same feeling I'd had when Sarah was 16 and lied to me about going to a party. That instinct, that something was off, that I was being kept in the dark about something. But I pushed it down. I told myself I was being paranoid, overly sensitive. She was an adult with her own life. Of course she spent time with her husband's family. That was normal. That was healthy. Still, I couldn't shake the unease. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying conversations in my head, analyzing Sarah's tone, her word choices, the way she'd been gradually pulling away. By 3 a.m, I was wide awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd made a mistake with this whole vacation idea. Maybe it was too much. Maybe I was being that clingy parent Sarah needed space from. But then I'd remember all those years of just the two of us, all those sacrifices I'd made, and I'd think, no, I deserve to be part of her life. I deserve to be included. 3 days before we were supposed to leave, I decided to be proactive about the planning. I sent a group text to everyone. Can't wait to see everyone in 3 days. Safe travels. Simple, cheerful, excited. I hit send and waited for the responses to roll in. They didn't. Hours passed. Nothing. I checked my phone obsessively. The message showed as delivered, then read. But no one replied. Not Sarah, not David, not Gordon, not Patricia. By evening, I was genuinely concerned. Had something happened? Was there an emergency? I called Sarah. It rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I left a message asking her to call me back. She didn't. I texted David. Hey, just checking in about the trip. Everything okay? He read it immediately. I could see the little notification that he'd seen it, but no response. Just silence. That silence felt louder than any words. It felt deliberate. It felt like I was being ignored, and not accidentally. That night I couldn't eat dinner. I sat in my living room, Christmas lights twinkling on the tree I'd put up weeks ago, because I wanted the house to feel festive. The lights that had seemed so cheerful now felt mocking. I held my phone refreshing the group chat over and over, hoping someone would respond. No one did. The next day, I still heard nothing. I tried to distract myself with work, but I couldn't focus. Every few minutes I'd check my phone. Nothing. The silence was starting to feel hostile. I wasn't just being overlooked. I was being deliberately excluded. But from what? We were all going on this trip together. What could they possibly be planning without me? By the afternoon, I'd worked myself into a state of anxious confusion. I decided I needed to see Sarah in person. I needed to look her in the eye and ask what was going on. So I got in my truck and drove the 30 minutes to her and David's condo. The whole drive I rehearsed what I'd say. I didn't want to sound accusatory or needy. I just wanted to understand why everyone was giving me the cold shoulder right before this trip I'd spent so much money and energy planning. When I pulled up to their building, I saw David's car in the lot. They were home. I walked to the door and rang the bell. I could hear voices inside the sound of a television, people talking and laughing, but no one answered. I rang again. Still nothing. I knocked. The voices continued, but the door stayed closed. I stood there, feeling foolish and hurt. They were clearly home. They clearly heard me, and they were choosing not to answer. Part of me wanted to leave to preserve my dignity, but another part of me, the part that had spent $19,000 and months of planning on this trip, the part that was still Sarah's father, even if she was acting like I didn't exist. That part made me reach for my keys. Sarah had given me a key to their place 2 years ago when they first moved in. It was for emergencies, she'd said, if they were ever locked out, or if something happened and I needed to get inside. I'd never used it. But standing there, being ignored, while I could hear my own daughter laughing inside, felt like an emergency to me. So I unlocked the door and walked in. The living room was empty, but I could hear voices coming from the den. I walked through the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. Sarah's laptop open on the kitchen counter. The screen was still lit up, showing what looked like a group chat. I wasn't trying to snoop. I wasn't even looking for anything. But the words on that screen caught my eye, like a hook catches a fish, sharp and sudden and impossible to ignore. The group chat was called Caribbean Christmas Plan. I stopped walking. My heart started beating faster. Caribbean Christmas Plan. That was our trip. But this chat I could see from the member list included Sarah, David, Gordon, and Patricia. 4 people, not 5. I wasn't in this group. My hands went cold. I stepped closer to the laptop, knowing I shouldn't look, but unable to stop myself. The messages were right there, filling the screen. And as I started reading, the floor seemed to tilt under my feet. Patricia had written just 1 week ago, "I still can't believe Lewis booked all of this. Perfect. We get a luxury vacation, and Gordon doesn't have to spend a dime." Gordon's response, "Exactly. The man's lonely and desperate for Sarah's attention. Might as well take advantage of it." I had to read that twice. Take advantage of it. Take advantage of my loneliness. Take advantage of my love for my daughter. I scrolled up my hands, shaking so badly I almost dropped the laptop. Sarah had written, "I know it sounds harsh, but Dad's always been too clingy. This way we get the vacation, and honestly, I was thinking we could do our own thing once we're there. He'll probably just read his books on the beach anyway." Clingy. She called me clingy. Me, the man who raised her alone for 20 years. Me who gave up promotions and relationships and my own life to make sure she had everything she needed. Clingy. I kept reading, unable to stop, even though every word felt like a knife. David had written, "Your dad's a nice guy. But yeah, he can be a bit much. My parents and I were talking, maybe we could book some activities just for us, like that private island excursion." The private island excursion. The one I'd found and told Sarah about. They were planning to go without me, planning to take the trip I was paying for and systematically exclude me from every part of it. Patricia again. "Sarah, darling, you're so thoughtful. But seriously, we should plan which dinners to skip with him. I can't imagine talking about construction projects all night." My stomach turned. I'd never talked excessively about my work. I'd always tried to be interested in their lives, asking them questions, listening to their stories. But apparently, the few times I'd mentioned my job, Patricia had found it so unbearable she wanted to plan dinners without me. The most recent message was from Sarah, sent just yesterday. "Guy's dad just texted the group. Don't respond yet. I'll handle him later. Let's finalize our itinerary first. I'm thinking we do Christmas dinner at that exclusive restaurant, just the 4 of us. We can tell Dad the reservation was full." Christmas dinner. The reservation I'd made months ago. The one I'd specifically requested because I wanted us all together for the holiday. They were planning to lie to me, to tell me there was no space, so they could celebrate Christmas without me while spending my money. I stood there in that kitchen, the sounds of laughter drifting in from the other room, and something inside me broke. Not in a sad, defeated way. In a clean, sharp way. Like a bone that's been fractured and finally snaps completely. There was clarity in that break, crystal clear understanding. They didn't want me on this trip. They wanted my money. They wanted the luxury vacation. They wanted the 5-star resort and the gourmet meals and the spa treatments. But they didn't want me. My own daughter, the little girl I'd raised alone, who I'd sacrificed everything for, saw me as a burden to be managed, an ATM to be used and then avoided. I heard footsteps. Someone was coming into the kitchen. I carefully closed the laptop, set it back exactly where it had been, and walked out the front door before anyone saw me. I got in my truck, started the engine, and drove home. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove my mind absolutely calm, absolutely clear about what I needed to do. When I got home, it was 8 o'clock at night. I walked straight to my home office, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop. My hands were steady now. My breathing was even. I knew exactly what needed to happen next. They wanted a vacation without me. Fine. They'd get no vacation at all. I started with the resort. I pulled up the confirmation email and found the phone number for their guest services line. My call was answered on the second ring by a friendly representative with a lilting Caribbean accent. "Good evening. This is the Turquoise Bay Resort. How may I help you? Good evening. My name is Lewis Patterson. I have a reservation for 3 villas checking in December 23rd. Confirmation number TB-97421. One moment, please, Mr. Patterson. I heard typing. Yes, I have your reservation here. 3 beachfront villas, all-inclusive package. Is there something you'd like to modify? I need to cancel the entire reservation. There was a pause. Cancel. May I ask if there's an issue with the booking? Perhaps we could… No issue with the resort, I said calmly. Change of plans on my end. I understand, sir. I do need to inform you that cancellations made less than 72 hours before arrival are typically subject to full charges. However, I see you're just outside that window. You'd be eligible for a 75% refund. That's fine. Please proceed with the cancellation. More typing. All right, I'm processing that now. 3 villas, booking number TB-97421, canceled. You should receive a refund of $14,250 within 7 to 10 business days. Is there anything else I can help you with today? Actually, yes. I need to make a note on the account. The 4 other guests who were part of this reservation, I want to ensure they cannot rebook using the same package or dates. Another pause, longer this time. That's an unusual request, sir. I understand, but I was the sole payer for this reservation. The other guests were my invitees. I'm withdrawing that invitation. I want to make sure there's no confusion if they try to rebook. I see. I can certainly make a note in the system. Can you provide the names? I gave her Sarah's name, David's name, Gordon's name, Patricia's name, spelling each one carefully. Please note that these individuals should not be able to book any accommodations for the dates of December 23rd through December 30th under any circumstances related to my original reservation. Understood, Mr. Patterson. I've made a detailed note. Is there anything else? That's everything. Thank you for your help. You're very welcome, sir. We're sorry you won't be joining us this Christmas. I hung up and immediately felt a weight lift off my shoulders. $14,250 was a lot to lose, but the alternative was spending $19,000 to be humiliated and excluded in paradise. This way, I kept most of my money and all of my dignity. Next, I pulled up the airline confirmations. I'd booked 5 tickets on a direct flight to Providenciales. Fortunately, I'd purchased the flexible fare option, thinking it would give us freedom if plans changed. That decision was about to pay off. I navigated to the airline's website, logged into my account, and selected the option to cancel. 5 tickets. 1 for me, 1 for Sarah, 1 for David, 1 for Gordon, 1 for Patricia. The cancellation fee was $40 per ticket, $200 total. A small price to pay. I confirmed the cancellation. Within seconds, I received email confirmations. All 5 tickets canceled. Refund of $4,300 minus the cancellation fees would be processed within 14 days. Then I went through every other booking I'd made. The private dinner cruise I called the company explained I needed to cancel due to unforeseen circumstances. They were understanding, processed a full refund. The spa packages I'd booked for everyone. Canceled. The scuba diving expedition. Canceled. The sunset catamaran trip canceled. That private island excursion David had been so excited about stealing, especially canceled. Each cancellation felt like taking back a piece of myself. Every refund confirmation that hit my inbox was a small victory. I wasn't being spiteful. I wasn't being petty. I was simply withdrawing my resources from people who'd made it clear they didn't value me. The last thing I did was send an email to the resort. I wanted to be absolutely certain there was no way for them to swoop in and salvage this vacation on their own dime. I wrote to whom it may concern. I've just canceled my reservation for December 23rd through December 30th. I want to clarify that I was the sole financial party for this booking. The 4 other guests, Sarah Patterson, David Morrison, Gordon Morrison, and Patricia Morrison, were invited by me using my funds. As I've withdrawn both my presence and my financial support, I'm requesting that you not honor any attempts by these individuals to rebook the same accommodations or similar packages for these dates. They do not have my authorization to use my name, my original booking, or any associated benefits. Thank you for your understanding. I hit send and closed my laptop. It was 10:30 at night. In the space of 2.5 hours, I'd systematically dismantled a $19,000 vacation. I'd taken back control of a situation where I'd been made to feel powerless. And most importantly, I'd drawn a line. A clear, unambiguous line that said I would not be used, not by anyone, not even by my own daughter. I got ready for bed in a daze of emotional exhaustion and strange relief. As I lay down staring at the ceiling, I thought about Sarah. I wondered when she'd find out. I wondered how she'd react. Part of me felt guilty, like maybe I was overreacting. But then I'd remember those messages. Take advantage of his loneliness. He's too clingy. We can do our own thing. And the guilt would evaporate, replaced by a cold, hard certainty that I'd done the right thing. For the first time in weeks, I fell asleep quickly. There's something about decisive action that brings peace, even when that action burns bridges. I'd spent so long trying to please everyone, trying to buy love and inclusion with money and effort. Tonight, I'd stopped trying, and there was freedom in that. I woke up at 6:30 the next morning, made myself coffee, scrambled some eggs, sat at my kitchen table watching the winter sun come up. It was 2 days before we were supposed to fly out. 2 days before they'd all discover that the vacation they'd been secretly planning to enjoy without me no longer existed. My phone was silent. I sipped my coffee, ate my breakfast, and waited. The calm before the storm. I knew it was coming. I just didn't know exactly when or how explosive it would be. At exactly 7 o'clock, my phone started ringing. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Voicemail. 10 seconds later, it rang again. Sarah. I didn't answer. Then David called. Then Gordon. Then Patricia. All within the span of 5 minutes. I sat there, coffee cup in hand, watching my phone light up over and over like a frantic Christmas display. The voicemails started piling up, but I didn't listen to them. Then the texts began. Sarah 702. Dad, call me right now. Sarah 704. What did you do? The resort says everything's canceled. Sarah 706. This isn't funny. Call me back immediately. David 706. Lewis, this is David. Please call us back. There must be some mistake with the booking. Gordon 710. Lewis, I'm sure we can work this out. Let's talk like adults. Patricia 712. Lewis, this is very immature. We need to discuss this situation. I read each message slowly, carefully. There was something satisfying about seeing them panic scramble, realize that their carefully laid plans had just collapsed. I imagined them all together, probably at Sarah and David's place, gathered around a laptop or phone, frantically trying to understand what had happened. Had they called the resort? Had the resort told them about my email? Did they know yet that I knew about their secret chat? I finished my coffee, made another cup. It was 7:45 when I heard a car pull up outside my house. Then another. I walked to the front window and looked out. Sarah's car, David's car, right behind it. And there, pulling in behind both of them, Gordon and Patricia's luxury sedan. They'd all come. together, as a united front. The same united front they'd planned to be on that island, excluding me from their activities while spending my money. I watched them get out of their cars, watched them huddle together for a moment on my driveway, clearly strategizing. Then they all walked toward my front door. The doorbell rang, then aggressive knocking. "Dad, open this door." I took another sip of coffee, set the cup down, and walked slowly to the door. I stood there for a moment, hand on the doorknob, gathering myself. Then I opened it. They stood there on my porch, all four of them. Sarah looked furious, her face, red eyes blazing. David stood slightly behind her, his jaw tight. Gordon and Patricia flanked them both, trying to look authoritative and reasonable at the same time. "Well," I said calmly, "good morning." Sarah pushed past me into the house. "What the hell did you do? Why did you cancel everything?" I closed the door behind them as they all filed in. "Would anyone like coffee?" "We don't want coffee." Sarah's voice was nearly a shout. "We were supposed to leave tomorrow. Do you have any idea what you've done?" I looked at her, this woman who used to be my little girl, and felt a strange detachment. "Oh, I know exactly what I've done, Sarah. I canceled a vacation that you never wanted me on in the first place." The room went silent. The kind of silence that's heavy, oppressive, full of things unsaid, suddenly hanging in the air, visible and undeniable. "What are you talking about?" Sarah's voice was quieter now, uncertain. "Caribbean Christmas plan," I said. "Ring a bell. The group chat where you and David's family discussed how to avoid me the entire trip." Sarah's face went from red to white in an instant. David's eyes widened. Gordon and Patricia exchanged glances. "You went through my laptop." Sarah's voice was shaking. "I didn't have to go through anything," I replied evenly. "You left it wide open on your kitchen counter. I saw every single message. How I'm too clingy. How Gordon wanted to take advantage of my loneliness. How you all planned to do your own activities and skip dinners with me. How you were going to lie about the Christmas dinner reservation being full so you four could celebrate without me." "Louis, listen." Gordon started stepping forward. "Those messages were taken out of context." I held up my hand. "Context." "The context is crystal clear, Gordon. You saw a lonely father trying to connect with his daughter, and you saw a free vacation. Patricia, you couldn't imagine listening to my boring construction stories all night. And Sarah..." I turned to my daughter, feeling something crack in my chest. "You called me clingy. You said I'd be happy with alone time while you four went off together. That's what hurt the most. Not the money. Not even Gordon and Patricia's opportunism. But knowing my own daughter sees me as a burden." "Dad, it wasn't..." Sarah's eyes were filling with tears. "We were just venting. Everyone vents about their parents." "Venting." I repeated the word slowly. "Venting is calling a friend and saying you're frustrated. Planning a week-long vacation where you systematically exclude your father while spending his $19,000. That's not venting, Sarah. That's betrayal." Patricia cleared her throat. "Louis, we can fix this. Let's rebook everything. We'll all pay our share this time." I almost laughed. "You can't rebook. I made sure of that. The resort has been notified that none of you have authorization to use my name or my original reservation." "This is insane." David's voice rose. "You're punishing everyone because of some stupid texts." I turned to look at him. This man who'd helped my daughter planned to humiliate me. Stupid texts. Those texts showed me who you all really are. And David, I'm not punishing anyone. I simply withdrew my money from a trip where I wasn't wanted. You're all adults. If you want to go to the Caribbean for Christmas, you're free to book your own vacation. With what money? Gordon's frustration was showing now. Do you have any idea how expensive last-minute bookings are this time of year? "Oh," I said, letting sarcasm creep into my voice for the first time. So now it's about the money. I thought you were all so excited about family time, about spending Christmas together, about creating memories. Or was it always just about the free vacation? That's not fair, Sarah said, tears streaming down her face now. Dad, please. It was just talk. We wouldn't have actually excluded you. Really? I pulled out my phone, opened my photos. I'd taken screenshots of some of those messages before I left their house. I held up the phone. You were planning the Christmas dinner without me. You were booking activities just for the four of you. You told everyone not to respond to my texts. Which part of that was just talk? Sarah stared at the screenshots, unable to deny her own words. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I am, too, I said quietly. I'm sorry I spent months planning something special only to discover I was the joke. I'm sorry I spent $19,000 to be tolerated. And I'm sorry that my own daughter thinks so little of me that she'd mock me with her in-laws behind my back. Louis, you're being unreasonable, Patricia tried again. We're family now. Families work through misunderstandings. Family, I repeated. You're right, Patricia. Families do work through misunderstandings. But you're not my family. You're the people who were planning to take advantage of me. And Sarah, you're my daughter. But right now, I don't recognize you. The girl I raised would never treat someone this way, especially not someone who loved her unconditionally. So what now? Gordon asked, his voice hard. You just cancel everything and leave us scrambling 2 days before Christmas. Yes, I said simply. That's exactly what I do. Because you were planning to leave me scrambling on Christmas Day alone on a beach, while you four enjoyed the restaurant. I booked the activities, I paid for the vacation I created. The only difference is, I'm being honest about it. Sarah was crying harder now. Dad, please. Can we just talk about this? Can we figure something out? There's nothing to figure out, Sarah. You showed me how you really feel. Gordon and Patricia showed me what they really think. And David, you went right along with it. You all made your choices. I'm just responding to those choices. By being vindictive, David's anger was full-blown now. No, I corrected him, by having self-respect. There's a difference. Now, I'd like you all to leave. I have things to do today. This isn't over, Gordon said. Yes, I replied calmly. It is. I walked to the door and opened it. They stood there for a moment. Sarah still crying. Gordon red-faced with anger. Patricia looking offended. David clenching and unclenching his fists. Then, one by one, they filed out onto the porch. Sarah turned back at the door. Dad, I love you. You have to know that. I looked at my daughter, this person I devoted my life to, and felt something inside me close off like a door locking. Love isn't enough, Sarah. Love without respect, without consideration, without basic human decency. That's not love at all. That's just words. I closed the door, stood there, listening to their voices outside, muffled and argumentative. Then, car doors slamming, engines starting, the sound of them driving away. The house was silent again. I walked back to the kitchen, poured myself another cup of coffee, and sat down at the table. My hands were shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off. But underneath the shaking was something solid, something unshakable. I'd stood up for myself. I'd refused to be disrespected. And no matter what happened next, I'd done the right thing. Christmas Day arrived. The day we all would have been waking up in paradise, having breakfast on a terrace, overlooking turquoise water, planning our day of activities and relaxation. Instead, I woke up in my own bed in my quiet house, with no plans except the ones I made for myself. I didn't feel sad. That's what surprised me most. I'd expected to feel lonely, regretful, maybe even angry. But I just felt peaceful. There was clarity and solitude when the alternative was company, that didn't want you there. I made myself a big breakfast. Pancakes with real maple syrup, crispy bacon, scrambled eggs with cheese, fresh orange juice. I took my time cooking, enjoying the ritual of it. When was the last time I'd cooked a leisurely breakfast just for myself? Usually I was rushing, trying to get somewhere, or do something for someone else. I ate at my table watching the morning light come through the windows. Then I opened the book I'd bought for the trip, A History of Caribbean Piracy. Turned out I didn't need to be on an island to enjoy reading about them. My phone had been buzzing periodically for days. Texts from Sarah mostly. Long apologetic messages that started as defensive and gradually became more genuine. I'd read them, but I hadn't responded. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. That afternoon, I watched some of my favorite old movies. It's a Wonderful Life seemed appropriate, though perhaps ironic. Here was George Bailey, learning how much he mattered to his community, while I'd learned how little I apparently mattered to mine. But there was something in the message anyway, about not letting others define your worth, about finding value in your own integrity. Around evening, as I was making myself dinner, my phone rang. Sarah again. This time I surprised myself by answering. "Dad?" Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. "Thank you for picking up." "Sarah, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I don't deserve your time, but I needed to tell you something. I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days." I didn't respond, just listened. "You were right. About everything. I was awful. David's parents were awful. We treated you like an ATM instead of a person. And the worst part is, I didn't even realize how bad it was until you showed me those messages. Seeing my own words like that, seeing what I'd become, it made me sick." "Okay," I said neutrally. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't even know if you can forgive me. But I need you to know I'm ashamed. Really, truly ashamed. You raised me better than that. You sacrificed everything for me. You never remarried because you wanted to focus on being my dad. And I repaid you by mocking you behind your back, by letting David's parents use you, by planning to exclude you from the vacation you paid for. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe that's who I became." I sat down, the phone pressed to my ear, feeling emotions I'd been holding back start to surface. "I had a huge fight with David," Sarah continued. "About his parents, about how they influenced me, about how I let them. The truth is, Dad, I got so caught up in trying to fit into their world, their wealthy, perfect world, that I forgot my own values. I forgot where I came from. I forgot what you taught me about treating people with respect and kindness." "Sarah," I finally spoke, "I appreciate you saying this, but here's what you need to understand. I didn't cancel that trip out of spite. I canceled it because I realized I can't buy your love or your respect, and I won't let anyone treat me that way again. Not Gordon, not Patricia, not David, and not even you." "I know. You're right. I understand that now. I just don't want to lose you, Dad. You're the most important person in my life, even if I forgot to show it." "You haven't lost me," I said. And I meant it. But things need to change. I need to be treated with respect, not as someone whose feelings don't matter, not as a wallet that walks and talks. "Yes, absolutely yes. How do we fix this? What do I need to do?" "Time," I said. "And consistency. You show me through actions, not words. You prove that you value me as a person, not as a source of money or gifts. You stand up for me if your in-laws ever disrespect me again. You remember that I'm your father, and I deserve basic human decency at minimum." "I will. I promise I will. Can we meet? Can we talk in person?" I thought about it. "Not yet. I need some space still. But we can talk on the phone. We can take this slow." "Okay." She was crying again, but these tears sounded different. relieved maybe. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for not giving up on me completely. I could never give up on you, Sarah. But I can't be a doormat either. Even for you. Especially for you, because you need to know that relationships require mutual respect. We talked for a while longer. She told me she'd set boundaries with Gordon and Patricia, that she'd made it clear their behavior wasn't acceptable. She told me about her fight with David, how he'd initially defended his parents, but eventually admitted they'd crossed lines. She said she was going to therapy, trying to understand how she'd lost herself in trying to please her husband's family. I listened cautiously hopeful. People could change. Maybe Sarah was genuinely learning from this. Or maybe she was just telling me what I wanted to hear. Time would reveal the truth. 3 months passed. Sarah and I rebuilt slowly. We met for breakfast once a week, just the two of us. No David, no in-laws, just father and daughter. At first, our conversations were careful, polite, surface level. But gradually, we found our rhythm again. She asked me about my work, really asked, and listened to the answers. She shared stories about her job, her friends, her life. Not the curated version she'd been giving me, but the real stuff. The frustrations, the victories, the mundane daily moments that make up a life. One Saturday morning, about 2 months after Christmas, Sarah showed up at my house unexpected. "I want to show you something," she said. She led me to her car and pulled out her phone. I deleted that group chat. I also blocked Gordon and Patricia's numbers for a while. I needed space from them too. How's David handling that? He understands, mostly. It's been rocky, I won't lie. But he's learning that he married me, not his parents. And I'm learning that I don't have to bend myself into knots to please them. We spent that morning together, not doing anything special, just walking around the old neighborhood where she grew up, talking about memories. She showed me where she'd fallen off her bike and scraped her knee when she was 7. I showed her the tree where I'd hung her tire swing, now long gone, but I could still picture it perfectly. "Dad," she said, as we sat on a bench in the park, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Do you forgive me? Really, truly forgive me?" I thought about it carefully. I forgive you for hurting me. I understand that you made mistakes, that you got caught up in trying to impress people who weren't worth impressing. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I won't forget what happened, and I won't let myself be that vulnerable again, not with anyone. She nodded slowly. "That's fair. That's more than fair." "But," I continued, "I don't want to carry anger around either. That doesn't serve me. So yes, I forgive you. And I'm proud of you for doing the work to change." She leaned her head on my shoulder, the way she used to when she was little. We sat there in comfortable silence, watching dogs play in the park, parents pushing kids on swings, life happening all around us. That night, I thought about everything that had happened. The $19,000 I'd spent, and then reclaimed. The heartbreak of discovering my daughter's betrayal. The strength it took to stand up for myself. The slow, painful process of rebuilding trust. I didn't regret canceling that trip. Not for a second. Because that trip would have been a lie. An expensive, beautiful lie, where I pretended not to know how they really felt, and they pretended to want me there. The cancellation had been the truth. Harsh, painful, but ultimately freeing. I'd learned something that Christmas. Something about the difference between being loved and being convenient. About the importance of self-respect, even when it costs you relationships. About how sometimes the best gift you can give someone is teaching them that their actions have consequences. Sarah was learning too. Learning that wealth and status don't matter if you lose your integrity. Learning that family isn't about blood or obligation, but about mutual respect and genuine care. Learning that love, real love, isn't just a feeling, but a series of choices you make every day. Was our relationship back to normal? No. It was something different now. More honest, maybe. Less assuming. We both knew it could break, had broken. Could break again if we weren't careful. That knowledge made us both try harder, appreciate more, take less for granted. I still kept the screenshots of those messages, not to torture myself, but as a reminder that I'd found my breaking point and respected it. A reminder that I'd valued myself enough to walk away from something that hurt me, even when that something was supposed to be a gift. And in a strange way, that canceled vacation had given me something valuable after all. Not memories of beaches and sunsets, but something more lasting. The knowledge that I could stand alone, that I didn't need anyone's approval or inclusion to have worth, that my love for my daughter didn't require me to accept disrespect. I spent years trying to be the perfect father, afraid that if I wasn't, I'd lose her. But I learned something that Christmas. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is not your money or your sacrifice. It's teaching them that love should never come at the cost of your dignity. And maybe, just maybe, that's a lesson we both needed to learn. So here's what I want to know from you. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect? Have you ever been in a situation where family made you feel like you had to accept being treated poorly just because they're family? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with the people you love most. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who's struggling with similar choices. Remember, loving someone doesn't mean letting them walk all over you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even when it hurts. Take care of yourselves, and have a wonderful day.